Parmenides, On Nature. My carriage was drawn by the mares which carry me to the limits of my heart's desire. They took me and set me on the renowned way of the deity, which takes a man of knowledge unharmed through all. There I rode, for there the much-prompted mares were carrying me, straining at the carriage, and maidens were guiding my way. The axle in its nave screeched like a pipe and glowed red-hot, for the two wheels on either side were whirling and urging it on. Thanks to the haste with which the maiden daughters of the sun drove the carriage, having left the abode of night and entered the light, they pushed the veils off their heads with their hands. There stand the gates of the paths of night and day, and a lintel and threshold of stone enclose them round about. The gates are of ether, and they fill the huge frame of the gate, and vengeful justice controls the alternating locks. The maidens spoke soft and beguiling words to Lady Justice, and cunningly persuaded her to take the pin quickly out of the lock, and pull it away from the gates for them. The gates opened wide, creating a yawning gap through the frame, as one and then the other turned in their sockets the bronze pivots which were fastened to them with nails and rivets. Then the maidens steered the carriage, and the horses straight through the gates and down the road. The goddess received me kindly. Taking in her hand, my right hand, she spoke and addressed me with these words. "Young man, you have reached my abode as the companion of immortal charioteers, and of the mares which carry you. You are welcome. It was no ill fate that prompted you to travel this way, which is indeed far from mortal men, beyond their beaten paths. No, it was right and justice. You must learn everything, both the steady heart of well-rounded truth and the beliefs of mortals in which there is no true trust. Still, you shall learn them too, and come to see how beliefs must exist in an acceptable form, all-pervasive as they altogether are. Come, then, I will tell you, and do you for your part listen to my tale and pass it on, of those ways of seeking which alone can be thought of. There is the way that it is and it cannot not be. This is the path of trust, for truth attends it. Then there is the way that it is not, and that it must not be. This, as I show you, is an altogether misguided route. For you may not know what is not, there is no end to it, nor may you tell of it. It must be that what can be spoken and thought is, for it is there for being, and there is no such thing as nothing. These are the guidelines I suggest for you. For I shall start my exposition to you first with this way of seeking, and then go on to the one on which mortals, knowing nothing, stray two-headed, for confusion in their breasts leads astray their thinking. On this way they journey, deaf and blind, bewildered, indecisive herds, in whose thinking being and not being are the same, and yet not the same. For all of them the path turns back on itself. By thinking gaze unshaken on things which, though absent, are present. For thinking will not sever what is from clinging to what is, whether it is scattered at random everywhere throughout my composition, or whether it comes together. For never shall this be overcome, so that things that are not are. You should restrain your thinking from this way of seeking, and do not let habit compel you, along this well-tried path, to wield the aimless eye and noise-filled ear and tongue, but use reason to come to a decision on the contentious test I have announced. Now, only the one tale remains, of the way that it is. On this way, there are very many signs indicating that what is unborn and imperishable, entire, alone of its kind, unshaken and complete. It was not once, nor will it be, since it is now altogether single and continuous. For what birth could you seek for it? How and from what did it grow? Neither will I allow you to say, or to think that it grew from what is not, for that it is not cannot be spoken or thought. Also, what need could have impelled it to arise later or sooner, if it sprang from an origin in nothing? And so it should either entirely be or not be at all. Nor ever will the power of trust allow that from what is, it becomes something other than itself. That is why justice has not freed it, relaxing the grip of her fetters either to be born or to perish. No, she holds it fast. The decision on these matters depends on this. It is or it is not, and it has been decided, as was necessary. To leave the one way unthought and nameless, as no real way, and that the other truly is a way and is truth-bearing, and how could what is be hereafter? How could it have been? If it came to be, it is not, and likewise, if it will be sometime in the future. Thus, birth has been extinguished and perishing made inconceivable. Nor can it be divided, since all alike it is, nor is there more of it here and an inferior amount of it elsewhere, which would restrain it from cohering, but it is all full of what is. And so it is all coherent, for what is in contact with what is. Now, changeless within the limits of great bonds, it is without beginning and without end, since birth and perishing have been driven far off, and true trust has cast them away. It stays in the same state and in the same place, lying by itself. And so it stays firmly as it is, for mighty necessity holds it in the bonds of a limit which restrains it all about, because it is not lawful for what is to be incomplete. For there is no lack in it. If there were, it would lack everything. The same thing both can be thought and is that which enables thinking. For you will not find thinking apart from what is, on which it depends for its expression. For apart from what is, nothing else either is or will be, since what is what fate bound to be entire and changeless. Therefore all those things which mortal men, trusting in their true reality, have proposed, are no more than names, both birth and perishing, both being and not being, change of place and alteration of bright coloring. Now, since there is a last limit, what is complete, from every side like the body of a well-rounded sphere, everywhere of equal intensity from the center. For it must not be somewhat greater in one part and somewhat smaller in another. For, first, there is no such thing as what is not, to stop what is from joining up with itself, and, second, it is impossible for what is to be more here and less there than what is, since it all invariably is. For from every direction it is equal to itself, and meets with limits. Here I end what I have to tell you of trustworthy arguments and thinking about reality. From this point onward, learn mortal beliefs, listening to words which, though composed, will be lies. For they proposed in their minds to name two forms, one of which should not be named. This is where they went wrong. They selected things oppositely configured and attributed to them features, distinct from one another. To the one form the bright fire of flame, which is gentle, very light, and in every way the same as itself, but not the same as the other. This too is self-consistent, in the opposite manner, as impenetrable night, a dense and heavy body. I tell you this way of composing things in all its plausibility, so that never shall any mortal man outstrip you in judgment. You shall know the nature of the ether, and all the signs in the ether. You shall know the baneful deeds of the immaculate torch, that is the brilliant sun, and you shall know the origins of all these things. You will come to understand the wanderings of the round-faced moon and her nature. You will comprehend also the enclosing heaven, and know from where it came and how necessity bound it to hold the limits of the stars. How earth and sun and moon, how the ether, shared by all, the Milky Way, the outermost heaven, and the hot force of the stars, all strove to come into existence. Now, since light and night have been given all names, and been predicated of this and that, in accordance with their powers, everything is full of light and dark night at once, and of both equally, since neither of them contains what is not. And so these things came into being thanks to belief, and are now, and in time to come, will end when their nourishment is complete. Men propose names for each thing to distinguish them. The narrower ones became filled with unadulterated fire, and subsequent ones with night, and a portion of flame permeates them. Between these is the goddess who controls all things, since for all things she initiated vile intercourse and childbirth, sending female to join with male, and again conversely male with female. The very first of all the gods she devised was love, an alien light wandering around the earth, shining in the night, with gaze always fixed on the rays of the sun.